going to discuss today is a recursive function. What is meant by recursive function? That is the first thing we have to know. What is meant by a recursive function? So the recursive function says a function which calls by itself. A recursive function says a function which calls by itself, that is called as a recursive function. Okay, a function which calls by itself. So in general, in the previous programs, in general we have discussed the function will be called from main program. Okay, through the main program we will call the function. But when a particular function calls by itself, then that function is called as a recursive function. A function which calls by itself is called as recursive function. Okay, this is what definition for recursive function. So when we discuss some example, we will get the clear-cut idea. Okay, let us start by an example. Okay. So we will have our program, that is hash include. We will start with the line hash include stdio.h, and followed by we have to declare the function. Let us create the function in order to find the factorial of a given number. So there should be a return type, that is I am going to find out the factorial of a given number. So you may know that the factorial means that, for example, if I give 5, that is the 5 factorial, which will give you the answer as 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, that is equal to 120 will be the answer. I think everyone may know this thing. So if I give the input as 5, the thing has to be done is 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. That is the value is decremented by 1. That is the 5 will be the input. After that the 5 will be multiplied by the value, that is n minus 1, 4. And then the 4 will be multiplied by another n minus 1, 3. And another n minus 1, 2. And another n minus 1, 1. So everything has to be multiplied and the answer has to be returned as 120. So that, which means that I will pass one argument, that is integer argument, and also I will return the answer. This is what the factorial. Okay, I will give 5 as an input, that is the argument, and after that the 120 has to be written as a result, that is the return type int. So I am going to declare the function as int space fact of int followed by semicolon. So in that, after that I am going to create my main function, void main of followed by open brace. So I am going to declare the variable n. First of all, I am going to declare the variable n. For the variable n, I am going to get the input. After that, I am going to call the function, that is fact of n, right? After multiplication, I have to store the result in some variable. So I have to declare the variable also. So finally I have to print the result. I have to print the result. So I will close the brace. Okay. Now the thing I have to do is I have to define. I have to define the function now. Okay. So far I have declared the function and I have called the function successfully. Now I have to define the function. So let us define the function int fact of int. You can give your own variable, so I will give n itself. Okay. Open brace. The thing I have to do is, if I give 5 as my input, if I give 5 as my input, okay. So the fact of 5 will be called. Fact of 5 will be called. So the fact of 5 will be called. Inside the fact, the thing has to be done is 5 into n minus 1. Okay. That is n into, I am going to give the statement as fact of n minus 1. Yes. That is the thing I have to do. That is, I am going to do is n into fact of n minus 1. N star fact of n minus 1. So here I am going to call the function. That is, the fact function calls by itself. This is called as a recursive function. Which means that here this line becomes 5 into fact of n minus 1. That is 4. And in turn, for this fact of 4, the n becomes 4 into fact of 3 will be called. And in turn, the n will be replaced by 3 into fact of 2. And in turn, this fact of 2 will be replaced as 2 into fact of 1. And this will be repeated. So now after fact of 1, I have to stop this process. Okay. So whenever I reaches the value 1, I have to stop this process. So I have to make a change in my code as if n is greater than or that is greater than 1. Whenever n is greater than 1, I am going to call this thing. Otherwise, else, I am going to return 1. I am going to close this function. So which means that when fact of 1 is called, this condition is checked n greater than 1, the condition fails. So it will return 1 as a result. So in the reverse manner, the fact of 1 will be replaced by 1. So the 2 into 1, the result becomes 2. I have to return this also. So that I have to give the return keyword here also. Return. Return n into fact of n minus 1. So that the 2 into 1, the result 2 will be returned to the previous function, which becomes 2. So 3 into 2, 6 will be written here. 4 into 6, 24 will be written here. And finally 5 into 24, that is 120, will be returned to main. That will be stored in the variable result. And that result will be printed successfully. So I will get the output. So this is what we call it as recursive function. Here the function fact calls itself the fact function. Within the fact function, I am going to call my fact function. That is a function which calls by itself is called as recursive function. So when we come towards some real world example, we can say whenever we speak to ourselves, that is when we speak to our mind, when we are alone, we will speak to our mind itself. That is what we call it as recursion. At some point, when some disturbance, when someone calls you or someone texts you or someone WhatsApp you or someone speaks to you, your recursion will be stopped. That's what the thing. Till n greater than or equal to greater than 1, till n greater than 1, the recursion takes place. That is, you will speak to yourself. And whenever n is equal to 1, that is when some interaction or some interference takes place, the else part will be called, it will return your result. So your recursion will be stopped. So that's what we call it as recursive function.